They thought she was weak. They thought she would cry and beg. They were wrong. The sun rose over the small town, but darkness lived in her heart. Her name was Clara, a mother, a widow, and the owner of a secret no one could imagine. Her children laughed in the yard, innocent, untouchable. But the town's cruelest man, Mr. Blackwell, watched from his porch. A man with money, power, and a twisted heart. He had always wanted control, and today he had a plan. Before she could blink, the town gathered. The auction block stood tall, ominous, like a judge ready to pass sentence. Her children, her babies, were placed on it. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and fear. Mr. Blackwell smiled. "Highest bidder takes them," he said. The crowd murmured. Whispers of greed, whispers of excitement. Clara's hands trembled, but her eyes burned with fury. She couldn't move, not yet. Her children's cries echoed in her ears. She heard coins clink. The gavel slammed, and just like that, they were gone. She screamed, but no one heard. The town was too busy cheering for the sale. Clara ran. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. She ran to the woods behind the town. Her tears wet the earth. Her anger ignited a fire no one could see yet. She swore. A quiet, deadly promise. She would not cry forever. She would not beg. She would make them pay. That night, she planned. Every whisper of the town's secrets, every weakness of Mr. Blackwell, every lie they told themselves about her, she wrote it all in her mind. Clara's grief turned into steel, her sorrow into strategy, her love for her children became her weapon. The town thought it had won. It hadn't. Not even close. Tomorrow, everything would change. If you're hooked and want to see what Clara does next, hit like, share this story, comment what you think will happen, and don't forget to subscribe for the next shocking final.
The town slept, but she was already plotting. Tonight, Blackwell would start to pay. The town slept, but she did not. Her mind raced. Her children's faces haunted every corner of her thoughts. She needed a plan, a way to hit Blackwell where it hurt, a way to make him regret the day he sold her children. First, she watched. From shadows, from alleyways, from behind curtains. Blackwell strutted through the town like a king. But kings can fall. And Clara knew exactly how to make him stumble. She started small. A misplaced tool in the workshop. A spilled bucket of grain. No one noticed yet, except Blackwell. He frowned, annoyed. No one saw Clara's tiny grin from the shadows. She gathered allies. The town's forgotten ones. Those Blackwell ignored. The poor. The outcasts. Clara whispered her plan, careful, precise. Promises of justice, promises of revenge, promises of a reckoning. Every night she worked. Every night she grew stronger. Every night Blackwell laughed in the daylight, blind to the storm brewing behind him. Rumors began to swirl. People whispered about strange happenings. Tools gone missing. Food spoiled. Letters lost. The town felt uneasy, and Clara smiled quietly. Her web was tightening. But the hardest part, the part that burned her soul, was the memory of her children. She could hear them crying, calling for her. Her tears fell on the dirt as she sharpened her mind for the plan ahead. Then came the first real strike. A messenger delivered bad news to Blackwell. A shipment of money vanished. A key business deal collapsed. The man who thought he was untouchable shook. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. Clara watched from the shadows. This was only the beginning. He had no idea who was behind it, no idea that a grieving mother could be the deadliest force in the town. The fire in her heart grew hotter. The town might celebrate Blackwell's power today, but tomorrow, the whole town would see what one woman's fury could do. And Clara, she would not stop. Not until justice was served. Blackwell thought the worst was over. He didn't know. Clara was just getting started. The morning came heavy. Clouds hung low. The town whispered like it sensed something coming. Clara walked through the dirt road with calm steps. Too calm. People glanced at her, confused. She looked fragile, but something in her eyes made even the boldest men step aside. Today was different. Today she wasn't hiding in shadows. Today she was ready to strike in the open. Blackwell's house towered over the town. Big, cold, built on pain and stolen lives. Clara stood across the road, watching it. Watching him. He strutted out as always, chest puffed, ego glowing. He greeted men who feared him, ignored the ones beneath him, laughed like he owned the sun. Clara's fingers curled into fists. Her heart burned. Every beat whispered her children's names. She waited until he rode off toward the market. Then she moved. Fast, silent, focused. She slipped around the back of his property. The workers were gone. The yard was empty. Perfect. She stepped into his stable. The smell of hay, the creak of old wood, and his prized horse, the one he used for every journey, stood tall. Blackwell loved that animal more than he loved any human. Clara approached slowly. The horse sensed her rage, but didn't fear her. Animals know the truth in people's hearts. She whispered softly into its ear, then cut the rope, let the gate swing open, and slapped the horse gently, sending it flying out the stable, disappearing into the trees. Blackwell's most valuable possession, gone. Just like he took her children. She didn't smile. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was a message. By the time Blackwell returned, panic hit the house. Workers shouted. Neighbors gathered. Blackwell screamed until his voice cracked. Clara watched from the distance, not hiding, not afraid. His eyes scanned the road, and for the first time, he saw her staring back. Unblinking, unbroken. His face paled, because in that single stare, he realized something horrifying. Clara wasn't grieving anymore. She was hunting, and he was the prey. If you're ready for the moment Clara's revenge turns deadly, hit like,
Share this story. Drop a comment about your prediction, and don't forget to subscribe for next.
When Blackwell's horse vanished, the town panicked. But Clara? She was only warming up. The sun dipped low. Shadows stretched like long fingers across the dirt road. Blackwell paced his porch, rage shaking every step. The town watched him closely. Everyone whispered. Everyone wondered. Who would dare touch Blackwell's property? Only one person knew the truth. Clara. She stood at the edge of the road that evening, cloak wrapped tight, face hidden. She listened to every rumor, every fear, every lie the town told to protect their own comfort. "Wolves must have taken the horse," someone muttered. "No," another whispered. "This is a warning." Clara's pulse slowed. Calm, steady, controlled. She didn't rush revenge. She didn't act without purpose. Tonight, she had a new target. Blackwell's ledger. The book that held every deal, every sale, every child he ripped from their mother's arms, including hers. It was locked inside his office, hidden behind walls of pride and greed. But Clara knew his routines. She knew when he left, when he drank, when he stumbled. And tonight, he drank too much. Blackwell staggered into the tavern, laughing too loud, slamming his cup on the table, pretending he wasn't terrified inside. Clara slipped away, quick, silent. Her figure melted into the night. She moved through the fields behind his home. The crickets fell silent as she passed. Even nature sensed her purpose. She reached the window of his office, listened, waited. The house breathed in soft, slow rhythms. Perfect. She pried open the window. Cold air rushed in. She stepped inside, one careful foot at a time. The ledger sat on his desk, thick, leather-bound, stained with the sins of the town. Her hands hovered over it. She breathed deep once, twice. Then she grabbed it. She didn't steal it. No. She opened it, page by page, line by line. Her eyes filled with fire. Names, dates, prices. Her children's names carved in ink. Sold. Traded. Erased. Clara didn't cry. Not anymore. She tore out every page, every transaction, every secret Blackwell built his power on. She stuffed the torn pages into her cloak. Then, she lit the match, dropped it on his desk, watched the flames swallow the ledger. Slow, hungry, merciless. When the fire reached the window, Clara disappeared into the night. And as the first scream echoed from Blackwell's house, she didn't look back. Justice had finally touched his door, and it was only the beginning. The fire took his ledger, but Clara wanted more. She wanted his whole world to burn. Blackwell stood in the ashes of his office. Smoke curled around his boots. The last pieces of his precious ledger drifted through the air like black snow. He screamed at the sky, at the town, at anyone who would listen. But deep down, he already knew. Someone was coming for him, and he feared only one person, the quiet woman with the broken heart he once ignored. Clara watched from the tree line, hidden, cold, unshaken. Blackwell kicked the burned desk, cursed the heavens,
accused everyone except the one person who stared at him through the darkness. Clara didn't smile, not yet, because revenge wasn't complete, not even close. She needed answers. Where were her children taken? Who bought them? Were they alive? Someone in the town knew, and she was ready to make them talk. That night, Clara walked to the old cabin at the edge of town, the place where Blackwell kept his records, not on paper, but through a man. A frightened, trembling man named Samuel, the clerk who witnessed every sale. He lived alone, surrounded by fear, a man haunted by secrets. Clara approached his door. One soft knock, then silence. The door cracked open. Samuel's eyes widened when he saw her. He tried to close it, but Clara's hand caught the wood like iron. "I need the truth," she whispered, her voice steady, cold, unarguable. Samuel backed away. His hands shook, his breath quivered. I can't. Blackwell will kill me," he stammered. Clara stepped closer. Her shadow swallowed the room. "Blackwell already started dying," she said, "and you'll join him if you lie." Samuel froze. His knees buckled. He collapsed onto the wooden floor. Then he spoke. The words spilled like poison. He told her everything. The auction, the buyers, the route the children were taken, and the name of the man who purchased both of them. A name Clara prayed she would never hear again. Colonel Reeves. Cruel, powerful, feared by everyone who lived or breathed in the region. Clara felt her blood turn colder than the night wind. Her tears didn't fall. Her voice didn't shake. She simply nodded, turned around, and walked out of the cabin. Samuel called after her. His voice squeaked in terror. "Where are you going?" Clara didn't stop walking. She didn't look back. "I'm bringing my children home and bury anyone who stands in my way." The moon followed her, silent, watching, knowing. The real war had just begun. If you're ready to see Clara hunt down the man who took her children, hit like, share this story, drop a comment, and make sure you subscribe for next. Clara finally had a name, Colonel Reeves, and now she had nothing left to lose. The night felt heavier than usual, like it knew the path Clara was about to walk, like it feared it. She packed only what she needed: a small blade, a canteen, a torn scrap of cloth that belonged to her youngest child. She pressed it to her face once, then hid it carefully inside her cloak. The road to Colonel Reeves' plantation was long, dangerous. Every traveler who passed warned her to turn back, but Clara kept walking, slow, silent, deadly. Her footsteps echoed against the dirt, each one a promise, each one a warning. The trees grew thicker as she left the town behind. Branches clawed at her cloak like desperate hands trying to stop her, but nothing could, not anymore. Hours passed. Her feet blistered, her body ached, but her mind stayed sharp, sharper than the knife she carried. She reached the old river by dawn, the one Samuel described, the same river Reeves used to smuggle the children he bought. Clara knelt by the water. Let it run over her hands. "This river carried my children away," she whispered. "Now it will carry me to them." Across the water stood the Reeves plantation. Huge, cold, silent. A monster made of wood and stone. Guards patrolled the grounds, men with rifles, men who didn't ask questions, men who would kill a stranger on sight. Clara watched them from behind the tall grass, memorized their steps, their pauses, their blind spots. Her heart thumped once, twice, then calmed. Fear was gone. Only purpose remained. She crawled low across the field. Her body hugged the earth. Her breath barely moved the air. A guard turned, stopped, looked around. Clara froze, her body still as stone. He stared for a long, tense moment. Then he moved on. Clara slipped through a gap in the fence. Her fingers brushed the dirt of Reeves' land soaked in stolen lives. She whispered to the wind, "I'm here, my loves. I'm coming." Then she disappeared into the shadows of the plantation, and the real hunt began. Clara made it onto Reeves' land, but what she heard inside that plantation was worse than she ever imagined. Clara moved like a shadow, silent, invisible, determined. The Reeves plantation stretched wide across the earth, too quiet, too still, like evil was holding its breath. She slipped behind an old shed, listened, watched. Guards laughed near the porch, laughs that didn't belong to decent men, laughs that hid secrets. One guard kicked a bucket, another spat on the ground. Then one of them muttered words that stabbed Clara deeper than any blade. "Reeves got 2 new kids last month." "Yeah," the other replied. "He says they're perfect for his new training." Clara's heart stopped. Her breath caught. Her vision shook. 2 kids. New. Taken. Held here. Her children. They were close, so close she could almost hear their whispers. She gripped the dirt with trembling hands, forced herself to stay silent, stay steady, stay deadly. The guard continued, voice low and foul. "Reeves says the girl is stubborn, keeps fighting." A pause. A sick chuckle. "He'll break her eventually." Clara's nails dug into her palms until blood warmed her fists. Her daughter, fighting alone, in the dark, surrounded by monsters. Then the other guard spoke. "The boy's quiet, won't talk to anyone." A shrug. "He'll give in soon. They always do." Clara's rage nearly erupted, nearly tore through the night, but she held it down like a burning coal in her throat. Not yet. Revenge without strategy was suicide. She breathed slow, deep, steady. Then she slipped from the shed toward the back of the main house. Each step silent as falling dust. A small window stood half open. Voices floated from inside. Clara leaned closer, her ear pressed to the cold wood. She heard Reeves himself, his voice thick, arrogant, dripping with cruelty. "Order the kids in the west quarters. No contact with the others, and no mother should ever find them, ever." Clara's spine stiffened. Her blood turned to fire. Her muscles tensed like coils ready to strike. West quarters. She repeated the words in her mind, burned them into her memory. She stepped back into the darkness, eyes blazing, jaw clenched. Now she knew where they were. Now she had a direction, a target, and nothing. Not guards, not Reeves, not hell itself, would stand between Clara and her children. Tonight, she would reach the west quarters. Tonight, someone on this land would bleed. If you're ready for the moment Clara reaches the west quarters and comes face to face with the first horrifying truth, hit like, share this story, drop a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss next. Clara finally knew where her children were kept, but what she found on the way there almost broke her. The west quarters sat at the far end of the plantation, isolated, hidden, a place meant to bury secrets. Clara kept low as she moved through the tall grass, every step quiet, every breath measured, every heartbeat a countdown. The moon hid behind clouds. The night was on her side. But the silence of the west field felt wrong, too hollow, too cold. She reached a wooden fence, old and splintered. Voices drifted from the courtyard beyond it. Voices she didn't recognize. Voices filled with cruelty. Clara crouched and peered through a gap. 2 guards stood outside the quarters. Big men, rifles hanging at their sides, their boots muddy, their faces bored. One yawned, the other scratched his beard. Then one said something that made Clara's blood freeze. The girl tried to escape again. A grin, a shrug. She'll stop fighting after tonight. Clara's chest tightened. Her fists trembled. Her vision blurred with heat. Her daughter, fighting, alone, terrified. Clara bit down on her lip until she tasted blood. She forced her body to stay still, forced her rage into silence. Action first, revenge later. The second guard spit into the dirt. "What about the boy?" The first snorted. "Quiet as a grave, don't even cry." Clara felt something inside her break. Her son was always gentle, soft. Now he was silent. Too silent. She wanted to run at them, scream, scratch their eyes out, tear the rifles from their hands. But she waited, watched. The guards began playing cards on a barrel, drinking, laughing, their rifles leaning useless against the wall. Perfect. Clara slid along the fence to the far corner. A small window sat low to the ground, bars across it, barely big enough for a child's face. She dropped to her knees, pressed her hand against the cold wood. Then she whispered, "Baby, it's Mama." For a moment, nothing. Just the wind, just silence. Then, a tiny gasp, a shuffle. A shadow moved behind the bars. A small voice whispered back, weak, shaking. "Mama?" Clara's heart shattered. She pressed her forehead to the wall. Tears finally escaped. "Yes, baby, I'm here. I'm right here." Another voice appeared, a boy's voice, soft, quiet. "Mama?" Her son, her daughter, both alive, both within arm's reach. Clara covered her mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. "I'm taking you out of here. I'm getting you home." But then, footsteps, heavy, getting closer. A guard's voice thundered, "Who's back there?" Clara froze. The children gasped. The guard's shadow stretched across the wall. Closer, closer, closer. Clara wiped her tears. Her body straightened. Her eyes hardened. Let him come. She wasn't running. Not tonight. If he found her, he was the first to die. The night she walked toward the auction block, even the moon hid behind the clouds. The town was quiet. Too quiet, like it knew something terrible was coming. Eliza stepped out of the trees with mud on her dress, blood on her hands, and fire in her eyes. People peeked from windows. Candles flickered. Someone whispered, "Is that her?" She didn't stop walking, didn't blink, didn't breathe. The sheriff saw her first. He froze, because he knew exactly what happened at the river. He knew Caleb Benton wasn't coming back. He reached for his gun. She didn't flinch. "Eliza," he said, voice trembling, "you need to stay right there." But she kept moving, one slow step at a time, boots scraping the dirt, dress dragging behind her like a ghost's shadow. She headed straight toward the courthouse, straight toward the wooden platform where Caleb sold her babies, sold to strangers, stolen from her arms. She looked out at the people who watched it happen, the people who said nothing, the people who let it happen. And then she pulled something from inside her dress, a folded list, written in Caleb's handwriting, a list with dates, locations, and 3 names. 3 children, her children. The crowd gasped. The sheriff's face drained white, because he knew exactly what that list meant, and the town was about to learn too. The truth she carried in that folded paper was about to tear the whole town open. Silence swallowed the square. No one moved. Not even the wind dared to breathe. Eliza held the list high, a trembling paper, a ticking bomb. "This," she said, voice steady as iron, "is every child Caleb Benton sold." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mothers clutched their own children. Men lowered their heads. No one wanted to be seen supporting the monster they once cheered for. Eliza continued, "3 names on this list belong to me." The sheriff swallowed hard. He knew it was true. He'd seen the sales. He'd looked the other way. Eliza stepped forward. Her shadow stretched across the platform, the same stage where her babies were ripped away. She raised her voice, low, steady, deadly. "You let him take them. You watched. And now you'll help bring them back." The crowd shifted. Guilt, fear, shame, all mixing in the cold night air. A woman stepped forward, hands shaking, tears spilling. "I bought one of the children," she confessed. "He wasn't told the child had a mother. We thought the baby was abandoned." Eliza's jaw tightened. Not anger, not forgiveness, just pain. "Where is he?" Eliza asked. "With my sister in Savannah," she whispered. "I swear he is cared for, loved." Eliza closed her eyes. Savannah. Her baby boy was alive. Not lost, not dead, alive. Another man stepped from the back, hat in hand, voice trembling. "I know where the girl went. Tennessee, farm north of Nashville." And another, a third witness emerged from the shadows. "We didn't know," he said. "We didn't know they were yours." Eliza looked at them, at the same people who once stood silent, now standing for her, for the first time. "You will take me to them," she said, "every last one." The sheriff lowered his gun, slow, defeated. "Eliza," his voice cracked. "What about Caleb? What happened to him?" She met his eyes, cold, sharp, unbroken. "He paid," she said, "just not the way you expected." The crowd stiffened. A shiver swept through them, because they realized her revenge wasn't rage, it was justice. Old, raw, unstoppable, and she wasn't done. Not until her children were back in her arms. Not until every buyer faced what they helped create. Eliza stepped off the platform. For the first time in years, she wasn't walking toward loss. She was walking toward hope. And the whole town followed. Quiet, humbled, changed.